is the Fat Man GM, and as always, I'm glad I'm welcome to one of my revisitations of old material from my shelves. This particular one is working my way through my collection of the material from Judges Guild circa late 70s to mid 70s to early 80s. The particular one in front of us is called Tarantis. This is another one of the city states. It is to my knowledge, it was the last one that they did. They only did to my knowledge, they only did 3 city states, and this is the last of the 3. It was produced in 1980, I believe. We'll see, 1983, copyrighted. And this is not a revised version. This is the original version. The purchase price at the time was $14.98. Designed by Bob Bledsoe, assisted by a number of others: William J. Weingard, Edward R.G. Mortimer, Diane Mortimer, Mark Homer, Dave Sterling, Rick Searle, etc., etc., etc. Now, it came with a series of maps. One of the things that I have not been able to locate in my limited collection, and I had all the maps, and for the love of Pete, like I said, some of them got chewed up and some of them got lost, and some of them may yet reappear stuck in between pages of books or something in my collection. And over time, the city-state maps themselves are missing, and that kind of bugs me. I went looking for them on the internet. I was able to find a free copy, but you can also purchase them from several locations, including Drive-Thru RPG, for $2. And I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was kind of surprised. I also noticed that you can find some PDFs of some of these things, so if you're interested in adding them to your collection, they're out there if you really want to go and look for them. Tarantis was a city-state that's in competition with the city-state of the World Overlord and the city-state of the World Emperor. It is ocean-based or sea-based, so it has a lot of things and themes in that era for using ships in the ocean. This one, because it's one of the lighter editions, it actually has a bit more depth to it. It has a better history established to it. I'm not going to read it to you, but it, as opposed to the World Overlord, which was one of their first, I think was the first installment, it lacks a bit of stuff. On the other hand, this one here has a bit more meat to it. You got things more, government customs, behaviors, religions in more depth, explanations of the provinces that are controlled by the city-state, the founding tribes. And we got descriptions of the various ministers of the ruling lord. And we got the chief advisor. We actually have an encounter list for palace encounters if your characters happen to be roaming the palace grounds itself. Here's the palace encounter stats. One of the things that this Tarantis deviated some from the other 2 city-states is that it has more detailed information on military units. And while it is an RPG, a role-playing game, this is also created at the time when tabletop war games were very popular, and as a matter of fact, a lot of players for RPGs were transitioning over from the tabletop war games into role-playing games because they wanted to get more control, more depth, more story. There's a limited amount of story to a tabletop war game. A war game is a war game, but it's 2 parts of the same pod as far as I'm concerned, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who will argue against that, and that's good, that's great. But in this case, we have a bunch of different units, so theoretically you could actually stage tabletop wars between the city-states and have detailed units in their makeup available to you, or you could use these in your RPG story game. So Shen's companies like Cavalry, A group made up of 300 men led by Shen Chu and his lieutenants. Their duties patrol the area south of the city Tarantis as far as the mouth of the river Trollharen. Their armor is scale mare, etc., etc. And it says Shu Shen, some little bit of information about the captain, and so on and so forth. And then here's the captain, his stats, and his 4 primary lieutenants, and it just goes on and on. And there are probably a couple dozen different units that are portrayed here, including several war galleys for the Navy, which Tarantis' primary power is its Navy, and acting as a large trading center and clearinghouse for both maritime traffic and piracy, which often brings it into conflict with the city-state of the world, or the city-state of the world overlord. The city-state of the world emperor, I'm understanding, is much further to the west of the game world, so they don't come in direct conflict too often. We have the graphic gazetter, the city-state basically breaking down the 4 maps, or I guess 8, 9, 10. I don't remember there being that many maps with this, but apparently there are. Oh, never mind. This is additional stuff to the existing maps that you can find, the various rivers and terrains. The everlasting stream, the onset stream, river Farsala, etc., etc. And we have a nice little rumor table. And you have to chuckle at some of these things, but other than that, they also offer ideas for the GM for creating encounters and mini adventures or adventures in general for their players. Here a great Cyclops guards a fabulous treasure in the hills of Fithamnor. A magical wish-fulfilling mermaid lives in the shallow lakes. Strange creatures have been seen outside the village's stone bow. The farmers are afraid to go out at night. Well, what farmers are not afraid to go out at night? I mean, it's kind of the way it goes, right? And then 2 pigeons have grown immensely after eating gravel or seeds at an alchemist's laboratory. The pigeons are flapping about coral row, too heavy to fly. It's interesting, right? A visor has been seen landing atop the Epilogue Inn on a flying carpet last night. A dim-sighted hobgoblin just set a large bronze cauldron down upon a drunken guard, nearly killing him. A magical dog lives at the Pebble and Pot on King's Row. That may or may not be true. Yeah. Arner Slinker, a horse trader, is plagued by giant spiders. Yeah, who doesn't have a giant spider problem every now and then, right? I'm just saying. That's where you hire a first-level group of adventurers to deal with it. The second group. The sheriff is offering 200 gold pieces for the head of a master thief who does not belong to the Thieves Guild and recently stole a gem-encrusted idol. Oh, and, they even list true or, T and P. I'm not sure what T. I assume T would mean true. It's a true rumor. P, possible rumor? I don't know. Then we go into the breakdown of the bazaar in various locations within the city, like antiques dealer Theta the collector, and we've got our sage, lawful neutral, and their stats. Although the stats look to me deceptive in Tarantis. I think they either had a typo problem here and nobody caught it, or it's based off of percentages. It's not your standard D&D stuff, so it would need a little tweaking. I don't think I recall ever playing out of Tarantis. One of the reasons might have been this, but the other reason was the player group I had way back when I was young. We didn't care. I mean, we were dominated by the world the City State of the World Overlord and the World Emperor while we were playing in this campaign world, which lasted for maybe a year and a half, and then I bounced back and forth from this over the time. You can look at my map, you can see where, this is not original stuff. This is stuff I added to it for reasons now I don't recall. Let's see, fresh meats, chains, beast of burdens. Who doesn't need chains occasionally, right? Helmer sells chains in small, medium, large lengths by the foot. Small lengths are 1d4 times the metal cost, and so on and so forth. Gold chains, silver chains may be purchased in small length size. Chains are forged by a group of dwarves far to the north who are friendly to Helmer. Well, God, forbid that he was dealing with stuff from unfriendly dwarves. The triple locked iron box are his personal savings, and a +1 dwarven hammer. So, we back. A lot of times, as your players, we don't think about where the mundane stuff that they buy or that they need to equip them, their clothing and their packs, things like chains. Well, obviously somebody has to make them and somebody has to sell them, and there should be a shop or a place that we don't generally have a general store where you can get all that stuff in one spot. It's up to the individual. We got some actors, accountants, alchemists. Let's see, alchemists. Here you go, Rob. Alchemist on Diaper Row. That's a street. Shrieking Alina. That's encouraging. Alina is very excitable, and for this reason is prone to make some slight mistakes in her creations. Probably a 15% of a backfire. A well-meaning and cheerful craft person, she is especially noted for her special blown glass containers, cushioned lead boxes, and glass spheres. She can easily devise special order containers for her elixirs, powders, potions, and compounds. Prisms, cusps, and lenses are also made by special order. She is especially skilled in preparations used for emotional control and mind effects. 2 workers, 1 assistant, 4 Amazon guards equipped with the swords. She has hallucinatory powder a trap in her. So her treasure chest is trapped by hallucinatory powder. Their verbiage is a little bit to be desired. Apparently she also has a love potion, an acid bottle, a ruby talisman in the same chest. It's an implication here that alchemists are able to concoct a lot of substances that would be considered magical. So a lot of first and second level spells can be created using non-magical or magical substances from like magical creatures and plants and things like this, processed by an alchemist who is not a magic user. That's the implication. Right, and I always like that. I always have. I always felt that D&D, for example, has limited potions and the possibilities of potions just a hair, and there's good reasons for it. And I'm not going to debate that here, but that's just my opinion on it. So we got cat trainer. Who doesn't need their cat trained? Good luck trying to train my fat cat. That's not going to happen. She was just clinging to me a minute ago, so she likes to climb up on me and literally lay on my chest. Cat trainer from the Hoot Street. Sir Certain the Rubik the Wise. Sir Certain is a Miram Catwolf Lanthrocope and knows many feeling languages. Well, isn't that convenient? So you can talk to the cat, explain to the cat what he wants, and get the cat to negotiate, hopefully, have the cat, and then seem to be training them. Okay. Other Miram avoid him and never venture near a shop for fear of the disease. He presently has 2 wild cats. Saracen will not train any cat that doesn't wish to be trained. Probability of 45%. You ain't trained. I'm a cat. You're not going to tell me what I'm going to do. Charges a flat 18 gold pieces a week for 46 weeks. 4 dice 6 weeks. Belt pouch. Secret compartment in the hearth holds 5 coral gems. Small bag of catnip. A tiger's eye. and a garnet, of course, And then, hey, we got a cat trainer, a simian trainer, an insect trainer. You don't see a horse trainer or a dog trainer. Just, I guess they're just tossing a couple of examples up there. Ilbus the Apothecary Deluxe on Dragon's Wall. Hanoi is well known for his accomplished herbalist and can identify any substance by taste, smell, or feel. Raised among elves, he has acquired the ability to create their famed way cakes, although only relative fatigue and damage temporarily heals. The cakes are sold for 30 gold pieces each. Well, apparently quite bind. Harlequins see better than most, especially at night. Asbestos, basil, coriander, mugwort, sunflower, stuff he sells. Yeah, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Probably not more than what's listed there, of course. Then we got architects, master armorers, like everybody needs to have. Astrologers, authors. There you go. Author, artists. And trying to have a little bit of everything going on here. You got bakers, banks, barbers. Barber on Rivercliff Lane is Garthina the Classic, a neutral good fighter who's either level 4 or level 41. See, I'm not sure. 041. That just bugs me to no end. And I'm sure there might be a scale or a key in here someplace, but I didn't find it when I was rereading it last week. Gary is known for grooming the aristocrats of the city. Has many highborn friends, especially among the noblewomen. Hairstyling is 9 silver pieces. Cosmetic body painting 12 silver pieces. Blemish and sore removal. False additions that last 3 die 6 days. False additions. Okay. Hair dye. Eye dyeing. Apparently she can change the color of your eyes for 2D gold pieces. Gary is assisted by 6 servants. I'll leave the false additions up to the imagination. Maybe changing altering the basic looks of a person's features, maybe hair extensions. A number of different possibilities come to mind. Some that I'm not going to put on a video. Okay, then we got Cullen shop full of trinkets, beggars, real bird trainer, bell ringer, bootmaker, bricklayer, cages, clothing, it says clothing on Zenith Lane. Chenis the Spurious, fighter, chaotic good, I'm not sure what level. Chenis has trouble staying on any one subject or any one enterprise for long. He switched occupations several times. Is currently the fashion king of the city-state. All of his amp cloth trousers and blouses are of garish colors, often stitched with silver or gold threads. Baggy blouses and trousers sell for 46 times 10 gold pieces. The elven pointed toe slippers for 15 gold pieces per pair. Place for mercenary guards. Yeah, like I said, everybody needs to have the yes. Use different. She's found my glass of milk over here and decides she needs to investigate closer. Just don't get your head caught in there like last time, right? Solicitor, dryer, engineers, executioner, examiner, feed store, flower store, foreign clothing, used furniture, in Assassin Lane. Trident the Indominer. Trident is often seen at fires and in the homes of deceased notables, purchasing antique furniture, especially the furnishings of servants' quarters. It's actually a spy for a local coven. She collects information about the whereabouts of nobles and clerics who oppose the coven, and then it lists a number of different items of furniture for sale and what the average price. She is protected by the coven, is constantly but secretly guarded, and has a chest within an old coffin in the basement containing 839 gold pieces and 2 silver shields worth 17 gold pieces apiece. Always nice. Games, Ghosters on Ghostwing Lane. What do Ghosters do? Burl Fistring, Bristling, and his sister Gilmira the Quiet is a mage, who's a lawful good mage. And this one, this is what I said, these stats are bogus, they're messed up somehow, because down here it goes, she's a level 4, right? So that one suggests he's level 7, or level 5, I don't know. And I read the local residents of Ghost for 300 copper pieces to be invested in trading ships in their names. They own 2 merchant galleys and part of 7 others. Their home is filled with arcane mementos, skulls, candles, idols, paintings, sort of stuff you'd expect to find in a ghoster's shop. Beneath the sword, poised into midair, is a small cask containing their stash. There are pieces of furniture enchanted to attempt to be useful. Doors open for lawful good people. Lids raised. Chairs follow one about each room. Well, that's what I want. I want to get it from my chair, and I want to have it follow me around. That way when I turn around, I'm tripping over it. Well, I guess that would make a deterrent, too. If the furniture starts falling around in the middle of the night. I'm just saying. Herbalist. Hatter. Hypnotist. Illusionist. The Informer. Roger Limpet. Chaotic evil fighter. Roger the Mouth ekes out a meager living, seeking opportunities to inform on others. He receives a slight stipend as a low-class spy for several sources outside the city, but the bulk of his income comes from guards, the merchants, and rival political factions or clans. He must do pretty well for himself. Locked in a chest buried in its dirt basement, contains 46 gold pieces, 43 silver, and 78 iron pieces. There's something you don't hear too much about anymore. Iron pieces. Yeah. Even cheaper than the copper. Jewelers, jewelry, lamp lighters, lamp makers. And then we get into a series of taverns. I'm not going to read all of them, but the Barbarian Inn on King's Row. This tavern is an eating place frequented by the worst of the barbarians of Tarantis. The place always smells of unclean bodies and alcohol. It is owned by Blaine Asgar, former barbarian, decided to open a place where his brother barbarians could eat and drink without other people commenting on their habits. Well, there you go. The inn serves only barbarians, and though it is located in the center of town, others avoid it for fear of being killed if they get too close. Yeah, that probably, you know them barbarians. And blah, blah, blah. Dragon's Blood Tavern, Ching's Chow, 8-Star, The Happy Hour, Kismet Cafe, the Inn of the Dark Star on Hag Row. Hey, I'm going down to the bar on Hag Row. Find my ex-wife hanging out. Oh, that's not nice. Never mind. The Seafarer, the Redbeard Inn, Flaming Tavern. Probably find my sister hanging out there. Well, that's not nice either. Yeah. Then we got Tarantis villages and their location on the map, the name of the village, estimated population. It says here a city-state of Tarantis, roughly 6,000 people. So it's far smaller than either of the major city-states, and I'm questioning the number there anyway. So there's the first installment, and this one has a second installment, which basically it's the same city. It says book 2 for levels 2 to 6, so I'm assuming this is just level 1 or entry level stuff. I don't know, but you see I tried to add color when I was younger, because who doesn't like to play with the color? There's additional stuff in this that so we got some additional shops of Tarantis, 177 through 326. There's roughly 326 shops or notables in the city is basically what it's saying. So like it was in the previous one, collection of this, that, and the other thing. town crier, warehouser, so on and so forth. And we get to some interesting components of this particular. You may not notice it, but I got my camera angled in a slight, so I've got to keep turning. I'm sitting this way, but I need to be this way. The courts of Tarantis, the hangman, courts of serious offenses, courts of... Now, this was the section, I think, that drew me to Tarantis as a GM back in the day, because it gave me some pretty detailed information on how the operations of a government and or a monarchy kind of thing would work, and it gave me information that I didn't have, and I would have to either try to learn or make up on my own. And like I said, being a lazy GM sometimes has its advantages. So using things that are pre-made, works to your advantage if you just need to tweak them a little bit. Court of Merchant Matters, Court of Lesser Offenses, the House of Law. These are lawyers. Then we got tax collectors, the city-state jail, which is always nice to have. We got our arena. What big city doesn't have an arena? The city arbory, the volunteer fire brigades. That's something you don't hear. Every village and town of significant size has got to have a fire brigade of some kind. People who have practiced putting out fires to save the city. So having a little bit of information here. Rothgard, the order, maintains the firefighting equipment in a small stable near the north gate. Citizens take pride in their fire brigade, and the Terran presents medals once a year to any deserving citizen for acts of valor. Volunteer mages are required to keep the water creation spell in reserve at all times. Keep a water creation spell. The brigade is empowered to impress all citizens below social level 6 into temporary service with jugs and axes in an emergency. Rothgard also operates a temporary shelter for stray pets and animals in the stable. Isn't that nice, that guy? Then we got some keen sightings. This section here is talking about what your characters could see from their vantage point. We're talking about, these are additional mechanics that are added, or were added, and I'm sure a lot of people will go, oh, we don't need them no more. Oh, we just make it up. It's a story. Okay, whatever. But it's nice having the mechanics and know that somebody made the effort to try to do that. So it gives you some working knowledge of what, if you don't have a good idea and you're not a great storyteller, how do you be a good GM? These are the sort of tools that can help you do that. And even good and tried and well-established GMs can find little nicks and tricks and things of interest that they can toss at their players that their players may not be prepared for or used to. It's always the advantage of these things, in my opinion. The range of unobstructed sighting possible should be varied according to the creature type. Obviously, a half ogre is going to see further than a halfling just because he stands taller. Allow 5 miles per foot of the height. So roughly, if you're 5 foot tall, you should be able to see roughly 25 miles from a height of X amount of feet. So, if you're standing from 1 to 10 feet, 5 miles with an additional 2 miles per foot from 11 to 50. So the higher you stand, if you're standing on top of a building, you're going to see farther, assuming the terrain allows you to. Then you have obstructions, and we have random rolls for those, or a charge for distance and height for things like, are you on packed desert versus heavy forest? You're not going to see very far in a heavy forest. Hydrographic terrain, streams, rivers, and lakes. Always nice. It's good stuff there. Prosperous prospecting. Some rules for your characters if they want to go gold prospecting for gold or silver or anything else of value. Triumphant, grand, tactical. Yeah, this is where if you're wanting to more or less, these are rules to help you do combat movement. Each turn of movement on the grand tactical hex is 1 hour long. Your movement points are the same as your dungeon move distance in inches. See the following table. Constitution checks. Whenever they attempt to climb steep hills or cliffs, move when having not eaten for the last 6 hours, or move when not having slept in the last 10 hours. A constitution check should be made. Movement obstacles. See, now you might think, well, they got rules for these, and this is the point. One of the points that at the time that these came out, there were no rules on a lot of this stuff. It was stuff that was either you had to, as the game master or referee or judge or whatever, you'd have to come up with them on your own. If your players asked, how do I do this, and you didn't have a ready reference, it wasn't until later that things like this came about, and the common popular house rules that would get presented in magazines like Dungeons and Dragon magazine that prompted the game designers to add them to newer and updated versions of the game rules. Just saying, right? Here's a thing that I used quite a bit too back then. This is a list of various types of plants, weeds, flowers, vegetables, herbs, and stuff that you can acquire, and I liked it because it gave me a fairly extensive list of stuff. The other side is it's already set up to roll randomly, so theoretically I could, if somebody says I'm looking for something, I could fire off one of these things, or I could just fire them off randomly as a low-level non-lethal encounter, unless of course you ate something you shouldn't. Lofty trees, fauna, same thing. Then we got civilizations and technological levels. Baronies talks about setting up as a player. As your player advances to a certain point where they get leveled up enough that they want to become landowners, and how to set up their own manor or barony or what have you, and then hiring people to run it and how to do that, and what kind of revenue you can expect, and can you manage it, and what you should and shouldn't be able to do as a absent landowner. Obviously, one of the early things in some of the early D&D was hirelings and followers, and the idea being was that an average player group could actually be 4 or 5 times its listed size, because each player potentially had a number of followers or hirelings that were working with them or for them, so you could have a group of 20 or 30 people moving around. We're back to that tabletop wargaming mindset, to do various tasks and things to free up the characters to do the important things, such as adventuring, fighting monsters, and finding loot. But at some point, these hirelings can get to a point where they level up. If your GM chooses to level them up, they can become problematic. So one of the advantages in this case, the old school set of thinking was, well, I'm going to set I hit 5th level, my fighter's going to carve out a hold somewhere, start building himself a manor house or a castle, and at this point these followers really shine, because then you can have a place to leave them and they can do stuff for you and help provide for especially when fighters, if they're following the chivalry code and eventually want to become knights and blah blah blah, it gets important. And magic users always need financial support, and this is one way of doing it. They're going to create a tower somewhere, and then they're going to have people to keep an eye on it, maintain it, keep it clean, keep the area around it free of low-level monsters, and potentially farm the land and provide a modest income or a significant income, depending on how much effort you want to work into it at the game table or away from the table. The Tarantis Palace, blueprints, layout, stuff that's in here. A lot of opportunities for rubbing elbows with the city leadership. Palace encounter stats, Palace encounter table. The Soaring Stars Club. It's elite club on the west side. few more. I guess they just kind of threw this in the back. Consummate here information. Anyone who is wealthy, popular, or of nobility belong to the stars. Contacts can be made here. Information bought and sold. Gossip flows freely. Blah blah. Everybody should belong to the stars. Yeah. The Burnt Dragon Club. Okay, so we got a couple different clubs. Now we got some stats for the fighters or Bard Citadels. Ho Cheese Castle. The Miriam Cat Wolf Folk. It's a race. The Miriam are highly intelligent, free-roaming race of cat wolves closely related to the appearance of war cats. Unlike the war cats, I'm going to say at some point somebody says, hey, why is it always werewolves? Why can't there be something else? And I'm a cat person, so let's have cat people. Alright. The Azurian Pirates. Some information on piracy and average ship characteristics. The offices of the Tarantis Merchants Association, in case you have to deal with the merchants. Here's a campaign map of the I guess this is the city of Tarantis tucked in here somewhere. Red Line Inn, Granary, events and encounters in town. In case you have you're at your wit end. I've used this several tables like these over the years to give me a ready-made. My characters come into town to spend their loot to get some stuff fixed up, and then they're just going to kill some time. And I can say, well, I can either make something up on the fly, or I could just roll randomly and let things unfold. After impressment, an impressment gang has a 35% chance of noticing a player character and will seek to capture him. Hey, have you ever been in the Navy? In the Navy, you can sail. We're gonna put you in the clear. Come here. Hey, have you seen Joe? Where'd Joe go? I ain't seen Joe all day. Oh, somebody said he joined the Navy. Yeah, we seen some Navy guys dragging him down the street. He looked like he was drunk. Out cold. Speaking of which, a drunken pirate lies sprawled in the gutter, muttering about men in a dead man's chest. He has 3 silver pieces in his pocket and a treasure map, which is fake, hidden under his bandana. This encounter may only happen once. If you roll a second time, re-roll. Makes sense. How many drunken pirate captains would you have laying around? Well, I guess it depends on the city, right? Village shops, village construction tables, these were always nice. And nowadays, because I have all this in my head, I've done these things I know it's simpler to make it up as you go, or just make it up yourself, but I have a understanding of how to make up a well-crafted village. Take that for a moment, think about it. I know of a friend of mine that decided to create a village. It was like maybe 150 people in it, and it had six inns, 6 or 7 inns and taverns, and it had five armorers or something like that, and in a village of 150 people. And I tried to get him to understand that 150 people doesn't mean 150 families unless you decide it does. So 150 people in the village, probably say 5 people to a family. You got maybe 30 buildings, 30 or 40 buildings, mostly residents. The idea of having 6 or 7 taverns, unless it's a crossroads, having 5 armorers in this. So this is what this city does, or this village does. Is its primary, export and income is armory, is making weapons. So it's plausible, but he just didn't think of that sort of thing. It wasn't a thing, and sometimes his methods would just leave us laughing, and he'd get so mad, and it wasn't because we were trying to be mean to him, but you had to. It was just, you couldn't help yourself. I'm just saying, right? Oh yeah, so there you have it, the city-state of Tarantis. It's, as always, it's nice to throw our dice, toss in our hat, and say, game on. Oh, and before I quit, I did want to point out, I did find, like I said, my opening scene was this map of the city. So this is a colorized version I got off of the internet. This is not my map, obviously. None of these maps were colored. You've seen the colors of the maps when they came in, but you can get an idea that this is not as huge as the city-state of the world emperor, and I'm going to hunt down a map for that one too, because it is freaking massive compared to this. This is a huge town by medieval standards, by sword and sorcery standards. Is it the top of the chain? No, not by far. But like I said, this could easily hold 6,000, so I guess 6,000 isn't unreasonable. Probably there are 4,000 or 5,000 living in the provinces around it. You can see that it's primarily a seaport, and so we've got 2 books basically for that map, these 2 books. And there you have it. Until next time, like I said, game on.